Alright, this is AP Calculus Self-Check 2.3. Today's date is Thursday, September 26th, but you are probably watching this Friday, September 27th if you are in my 2019 AP Calculus class. So you gave yourself 8 minutes to do these 4 questions, and you are here for the video explanation, and then the second part of this video will be the last 4 questions. Make sure you have all of those. And here we go. The answer for number 1. This is the definition of the derivative, which means you are going to hotbox this problem, the AP Calculus technique, where you box the first top left area where you have h plus something, everything in there, and then I'm going to write it down c. My c is the thing that's being added to h, so 3 pi divided by 2. And then I'm going to scratch out everything in here. I'm going to say that is really x. So that means my function, my f of x, is actually going to be cosine of x. Now, this is the definition of the derivative, so take the derivative. This is going to be f prime of x. That is going to be sine of x. And then I always have to come back and check, is it negative or positive? C stands for change the sign. It was positive, it is now negative. Now I need to plug in my c because it's the definition of the derivative at this point, 3 pi over 2. So I'm going to find f prime of 3 pi over 2. When I plug that in, that's going to be negative sine of 3 pi over 2. So it's going to look weird, but I need you guys to do some physical movement right now. Point to 3 pi over 2 right now. Literally do this. Point to it with your arms. I'm seeing you. Not really, okay? But 3 pi over 2, it lives right here. 3 pi over 2. We have 0, we have pi over 2, and then I keep counting pi's over 2. 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2. 2 pi over 2 is pi. 3 pi over 2 is right here. 3 pi over 2. So what is sine asking for? Is sine asking for the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate? And the answer is sine is asking for the y-coordinate. Y-coordinate, so I'm going all the way down here, and the y-coordinate is just -1. So this is, I still have the negative right here. This negative is copied down, negative. And this right here, this sine of 3 pi over 2 is -1, so -1. The correct answer here is +1. Correct answer is A. So I can write this out. This is equal to 1. All right, moving on to number 2. We have f of x is equal to this. I needed to take the derivative, and I'm immediately thinking, oh no, I have 2 variables, x and x. I'm always looking for the number of variables. If I have 2 variables, I'm either using quotient rule or I'm using product rule. These are being multiplied, so I'm doing product rule. Product means multiply. So product rule, again, know what this is. Write it out right now. If you don't know what it is, pause the video. And here's product rule. Product rule is 1d2 plus 2d1. All right, 1 is the 3x and 2 is natural log of x. Those are the 2 different functions that I'm talking about. So 1, I'm just copying down from the formula now. 1 is 3x. d2 is the derivative of natural log, which is 1 over inner, or 1 over x in this case. Now I'm going to add this to 2. 2 is natural log of x. Natural log of x times the derivative of 1. Derivative of 1, derivative of 3x is 3. And now I need to simplify this. I can simplify that really quickly. The x on the top and the bottom cancel each other out. I should be looking for 3 plus 3 natural log of x. 3 plus, it doesn't look like it's there, right? But it is, because this natural log of 3x can be rewritten as 3 natural log of x out front. And there is the rule that this 3 can come inside the parentheses up here to the power and turn into natural log of x to the power of 3. It's just one of the rules of logarithms that you have to have down. If you ever are confused about logarithms, there is a handout that I gave out like one of the first days of school. It should be in your binder somewhere. You can go back and reference that. So this should be 3 plus the natural log of x to the power of 3, and there it is. It is A. Number 3. All right, so y is equal to this thing. Again, I'm thinking, oh no, I have a variable and a variable. I'm going to have to either use product rule or quotient rule. Quotient rule is the one I'm going to be using because I have a fraction. So what is quotient rule? Quotient rule is low. You always start low, and then you end high. Low, d high, minus high, you're ending on the high, and then d low. All of this over low, low, or low squared. All right, so our high, or sorry, I'm starting with low. Low is x minus 1, so I'm just copying this down. X minus 1, that is going to be multiplied by d high, the derivative of the top, derivative of the numerator, times -1. The derivative of the top is just -1 because I still have that negative x. I need to subtract now the high, the numerator 1 minus x, times the derivative of the bottom, the derivative of the denominator, that is going to be x, or sorry, the derivative of x is just 1. Solve that times 1. And all of this is going to be divided by low, or x minus 1, quantity squared. And remember my tip for you, do not FOIL out the denominator. Leave it like this because usually they leave it like that as well. It looks like I'm leaning towards e just by looking at the denominator, but let's go ahead and multiply this out to make sure we got that correct. X times negative 1 is going to be 1 minus x. 1 minus x. If you don't know what I did right there, what I'm really doing is, what is negative 1 times x? I got a negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, and I just switch those around. So there's the first half, and I'm going to subtract, again, 1 minus x. So if I distribute this, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to distribute this negative. It's going to be minus 1 plus x. So this is going to be plus minus 1 plus x, and that's all going to be divided by x minus 1 quantity squared. My guess was incorrect. You can see that 1 minus 1 is 0, negative x plus x is 0. This is equal to 0 divided by x minus 1 quantity squared, and 0 divided by anything, as long as it's not 0, is 0. So the correct answer is actually B. Number 4, our final question for the front side for self-check 2.3. What is the slope of the tangent line to this graph at x equals 1? So if I'm finding slope of the line tangent, I don't think I've talked about it yet, but if you see these words, slope of the line tangent, automatically convert this to what is f prime. It's really looking for the derivative. The derivative at x equals 1, so I'm really saying f prime of 1. That's what we're asking for. So here is my f, I guess, or I guess I could be thinking of this as like y prime, and I'm taking the derivative of y to get y prime. I'm really thinking of this as f, so f prime of x, I'm taking the derivative. What is f prime of x? Well, again, I have a variable on the top and variable on the bottom, so I'm using quotient rule. Without looking at your notes, like you can fold your paper if you need to, or just cover it with your hand, write out quotient rule. Again, even if you've done it correctly 3 times before. Quotient rule, low, d high, minus high, d low, all over low, all over low squared. All right, so our low is x plus 1, so x plus 1. D high, the derivative of, I don't know what happened there. The derivative of the top is e, so derivative of e house is e house, e to the negative x. But don't forget your dinner. Multiply this by your dinner. Inner is negative x, so dinner, the derivative of negative x is negative 1. So there's the derivative of high. I'm going to subtract high, which is e to the negative x, times the derivative of low. The derivative of the denominator is just 1. All right, all of this is going to be divided by low, or x plus 1 quantity squared. Because I'm plugging in 1, I'm going to do that right now. I mean, some people want to simplify it. That's doing too much work. Plug it in as soon as possible. That rule is going to be universal throughout AP Calculus. If I plug in, it is faster. So if I plug in, I'm going to get 2. This turns into a 2. If I plug in 1, it's going to be times e to the negative 1. There's e to the negative 1 times negative 1. So I'm going to bring this negative out front right there. Now I'm going to subtract e to the negative 1 here. So e to the negative 1 times 1 is just e to the negative 1. And this is still all divided by, okay, x is now turned into a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. There's my new fraction. And it looks like I'm going to have to factor out an e to the negative 1 right here. So let's do that in green. I'm going to factor out e to the negative 1. E to the negative 1, if I factor that out, what's left over? So basically cross it off, and if it's crossed off and nothing remains, think of it as a 1. So if I factor it out, I'm left with a negative 2 minus 1. All of this divided by 4, and this negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So my new answer, let's change to black here, my new answer is negative 3/4 e to the negative 1, and of course e to the negative 1 can be turned here into negative 3 all over 4e to the power of normal 1, which is just 4e. So there's our final answer, negative 3 over 4e. Where is it? Negative 3 over 4e. B is our correct answer. Whew, that was a lot of algebra. Again, go ahead and give yourself the correct points out of 4 for this one. And then you may begin on self-check 2.4. It is 4 questions. You need to average a pace of 2 minutes per question. That means you're giving yourself 8 minutes for your timer. All right, so Here are the answers because you have already taken this now and you've unpaused the video. This again is the definition of the derivative. It looks familiar. So I'm using the hot box technique just like I did for number 1 in self-check 2.3. There's my box. The C is going to be whatever is being added to H, so my C is going to be 4 in this case. Then go ahead and scribble everything out, and it's going to turn into x, which means my f of x, my function, f of x, is equal to the thing that's still in the box, which is the natural log of x. All right, this is the definition of the derivative, so we are taking the derivative. So here we go, f prime of x. The derivative of log house is 1 over your inner, and inner is just x, so 1 over x. There's no dinner. I mean, inner is still x, so dinner is technically 1. You can always think about dinner. Sometimes it's just 1 and you don't have to do it. Again, now I need to plug in what is f prime of c. C is 4, so f prime of 4. I plug in and I get 1 over 4. Correct answer is B. Moving on to number 2. We have this function. I need to take the derivative, and I'm thinking, oh no, I have an x and an x. I have 2 variables. They're being multiplied, so I'm going to be using product rule. What is product rule? Again, write it out. Even if you wrote it out correctly, write it out again. The more practice, the better. The product rule is 1d2 plus 2d1. All right, 1 again is going to be just x, and then 2 is going to be natural log of x squared. We are going to have a dinner to worry about. So 1 is just x. I'm just following the formula now. 1 is x. d2, that is going to be the derivative of natural log. So derivative of natural log is 1 over the inner, 1 over x squared. And don't forget your dinner. Dinner here is going to be the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. All right, I just did this thing. These two now match up. I'm going to do plus 2d1. 2 is just natural log of x squared, natural log of x squared. And I'm going to add d1. The derivative of x is just 1. I don't know, I wrote plus there, sorry. Times 1. That is the derivative of x. All right, do I need to plug anything in? No, it's just x. I need to simplify this thing. So when I simplify, this is now going to be equal to, I have x times 2x for a 2x squared, all over x squared. You can automatically see x squared and x squared on the top. Cancel them out. We're going to add. Go back to green. Wrong color. Go back to green and add natural log of x squared. And again, the commutative property of addition means I can switch these two if I want, and that is exactly what they did for B. I switched them with the commutative property of addition. On to number 3. We have a fraction and I'm taking the derivative. I'm using quotient rule. Again, practice writing out quotient rule. Pause the video. Do it now. Quotient rule is low d high minus high d low all over low squared. All right, so my low, my denominator is 2x. My high is, I did that twice in a row now. My high, my numerator is e to the power of 2x. So low is 2x, following the formula. Derivative of high, the derivative of the top is, well, it's e house. Derivative of e house, or at least the doubter of e house, is e house. This is going to be times e to the 2x. Don't forget your dinner. Dinner here is going to be, well, inner is 2x, so dinner is 2. All right, that is all of this. Now I need to copy down the subtraction sign, minus, and then I'm going to deal with high is e to the power of 2x. Derivative of the low is derivative of 2x. Derivative of 2x is 2. All of this is going to be divided by low, and that is going to be 2x quantity squared. It's not just 2x squared, it's quantity squared. That squared is going to apply to this 2 as well. All right, so when I do this thing, I should have switched that to yellow. I should be alternating colors. When I simplify this thing, I get 2 times 2, which is 4x, so 4x e to the power of 2x minus 2 e to the power of 2x. Just brought that 2 out front. And on the bottom, I should have 4x squared. Again, another way of thinking about this thing right here is this is 2 squared x squared. The square applies to both of them. So it is 4x squared. 4x squared. I'm saying that right. Woo. 4x squared. But now I need to simplify this a little bit. You'll notice that none of these out here have a 4x squared on the bottom. So you're going to have to do some more simplification. Here we go. So I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor in the numerator. Well, in terms of coefficients, I have a 4 and a 2. The greatest common factor of 4 and 2 is 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2. And I also have an e to the power of 2x, e to the power of 2x, so that is another common factor, e to the power of 2x. This is the greatest common factor of the numerator, so what's left over when I factor out 2e to the power of 2x? Well, divide this by 2, and I'm left with, right here, if I divide that by 2, I'm left with 2x. So 2x, and again, we're canceling out the e to the 2x on both of them. I'm going to copy down the minus sign here, and then what happens when I divide 2e to the power of 2x by 2e to the power of 2x? Anything divided by itself is 1. And this is all over 4x squared. Again, we can do some simplification now. So 2 and 2, divide the top and bottom by 2, and this is going to be 2 on the bottom. So 2x squared, there we have 2x squared, and I should have e to the power of 2x factored out with a 2x minus 1. Correct answer here is e. Lots and lots of algebra happening there. Lots of room for errors. Our final question for self-check 2.4 and our final self-check problem for the entire unit. Here we go. Instantaneous rate of change. Immediately when I see instantaneous rate of change, I think of f prime. And at x equals 2, I change that to f prime of 2. Of the function given by this, okay, I know I'm taking the derivative. I know I have a fraction. This is, again, quotient rule. Practice writing out quotient rule. Low, d high. I got that I finally. Minus, high, d low, all over. Low, low. All right, so low, again, the denominator is x minus 1. Following the formula, x minus 1 quantity times the derivative of the numerator, d high. I'm on d high right here. The derivative of x squared minus 2 is just 2x. 2x. And I'm going to subtract, copying down the subtraction sign. High. High is just x squared minus 2. And then I'm going to take the derivative of the low. Derivative of x minus 1 is just 1. So this is times 1. And then all of this is going to be over low, low, low squared. So I'm going to take x minus 1 and square it. X minus 1 quantity squared. Okay, I'm plugging in a number. I'm plugging in 2 right here. So immediately do that. The sooner you plug it in, the easier your life will be. So I guess if I was being formal about my work, I would say this is f prime of x. And now I'm going to be working on what is f prime of 2. I'm plugging in 2 to everything. So when I do 2 minus 1, I'm going to get 1. If I plug in 2 here, I'm going to get 4. 1 times 4. And then I'm going to plug in 2 here. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 times 1, I'm just going to leave off the 1 over here. This is all going to be divided by, again, I'm plugging in 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. I don't even need that fraction. Everything divided by 1 is itself. And again, we are down here. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. Our final answer is D. We are done. All right, so correct answer out of 4. How many did you get? Be ready to show Mr. Sindel on Monday what you got on 2.4 and 2.3. That concludes this video. Be ready for a pre-test on Monday. See you guys Monday.